Opportunities ahead. Opportunities ahead. The knowing warning signs, both common sense warning signs and spiritual knowing warning signs. Spiritual discernment and warning signs. Hello, y'all. I'm Dianna Brianne. I don't give advice, suggestions, information, recommendations. I just share with you my perspective, my views, and my opinions on different topics, as is with this one. Well, I hope you like, share, subscribe to all 5 of my channels. Links are pinned to the top of the comment section below. If you connect with me, I will likely connect with you as well. Well, I got to thinking about warning signs today when I was out on my 5 miles. As y'all know, I do a 5-mile run, walk, waddle, jog, sprint, a little bit of all of it. And so this is the thing. I got to think about warning signs. And when I think of warning signs, I think of them as signs from God to protect us. And yet there can be different kinds of warning signs. There can be warning signs that, that are not necessarily spiritual in nature, and yet we can see the writing on the wall. If someone has bad health habits, that's kind of a warning sign that bad health could follow at some point. If one has bad spending habits, that could be a warning sign that they may have financial problems as a result of that. So there's kind of common sense warning signs that we can pick up on. But I also believe in the spiritual warning signs. Now, some people don't believe in them, and some people do. I'm one of the people that do believe in spiritual warning signs, as well as common sense warning signs. And not all warning signs are for a warning. Sometimes they are meant to be to stay alert for an opportunity. I believe that warning signs can come in all different shapes, sizes, and in different kinds of ways. So I pay close attention to my life. And I pay close attention to what's going on around me, what comes to me as a potential opportunity, or could that be a warning sign of what's ahead and what perhaps I need to avoid or need to be prepared for. And I've had many kinds of warning signs in life. I remember one, and it really was an opportunity, and yet I kind of got a warning sign beforehand. About 4 days, and I told this story in a video called The Miracle House. And we were living way down in Texas, and making a long story short, I said to my husband, we're going to move really, really soon. And he said to me, and this was a spiritual feeling I got. There was really no warning sign, like something happening, but it was just a spiritual feeling that I got, a very strong spiritual feeling, an overwhelming spiritual feeling. And so I started packing up, and it was about 4 days prior to what I'm about to tell you. My husband turned to me and said, we're not moving anywhere. There's nothing that, there's no reason to move. My job is here for a couple more years, and the house is positioned for us because it was part of his work. And I said, no, we're going to move. But I had no idea why we were going to move. Well, my kids were little at the time, like 5, 6, and 7, or somewhere in that age range. And so they were playing in the front yard, and they run in and they say, Mommy, there's stuff going all the way down the driveway. I look out, and of course, then I called the maintenance that would come for the house. And they said, ma'am, you're going to have to move. And I said, what? They said, deep under the ground, I guess like 20 feet under the ground, the tree roots had broken the pipes. Now, how in the world would I have ever known that tree roots were going to break the pipes 20 feet underground? I don't have like that kind of vision to look deep into the ground to know that. And yet something in my spirit warned me that we needed to get prepared to move. And well, you have to go back and watch that video because it even gets more interesting and more wonderful, and how we ended up in an amazing house that was far better than even the one we had. And so that was kind of what I believed to be a spiritual warning that I could feel deep inside my soul prior to that. And I've had so many, many like that, both for opportunity, but also things to avoid. I told this story once before, that many years ago when I was a single woman, I briefly dated a guy. And he didn't show up one night for a date, and I never heard from him until much later. And I knew he was really crazy about me, and I couldn't figure out what the issue was. Well, the day after I saw him, I looked in my dresser where I had kept some money, and all of that money was gone. But prior to me looking in the dresser, that night that I was supposed to get together with him, that I didn't see him, there was, and I lived in like a three-story apartment complex, and it was a beautiful complex, and my apartment was pristine clean. And in the middle of the night, this huge, well, I didn't know it was a rat at the time, but something jumped out from behind the curtain. Turned out to be a huge rat. Now, we didn't have rats there in that area. That was Southern California, and a beautiful area and all that. So I had to chase it around the apartment to get it out of there through the double doors with a broom. But that rat came to tell me that there was a rat in my life. At least that's what I believe. Now, maybe you don't believe that, but the next morning was when I discovered that my money was gone. Well, about a month or so later, remember I was very, very young at the time. About a month or so later, I hear from the guy, and he calls me up in the middle of the night because he was having some issues and he wanted my help. And I said to him, I said, "Did you steal my money?" And I don't even know why, because I really didn't think it was him. And he said, "Yes, I did." So that rat was basically, in my mind, telling me that I had a rat in my life. So it was a warning sign. Now, just because you see a rat doesn't mean that you got a rat in your life or anything else. I think you've got to kind of look at the whole picture and interpret it. But I've always had this gift of knowing, and it's just kind of my gift. Now, some people may dispute it and say, "Oh, there's no such thing." But it's my gift. It's one of my gifts. We all have many gifts. And I think most people probably have the gift of knowing. They just don't tap into it. And so warning signs can come in many, many different ways. And I think that even in relationships, we can see warning signs often before a relationship goes south. And if people pay attention, often they can turn that relationship around before it's too late. Same way with health habits or a health situation, same way with a financial situation, same way with many, many situations come common sense warning signs that maybe are not necessarily spiritual in nature, but are just very common sense if you watch for them. Other times there are things, I think, that are warning signs that we have nothing to do with, no control over, no part of, and no way of seeing, and yet it comes to us, whether it's through a spiritual feeling or through some other way. And I've had other ways that let me know what was ahead or what was potentially something I needed to avoid or an opportunity. And so we have to remember that there's all kinds of warning signs, and some of them can just be common sense that can come, just by observing. Other ones are, there's no way that we would know that unless it was a spiritual knowing, because it would be information that we would have no way of knowing. I remember many, many years ago, there was a big important thing, an event that was going to take place in my life, but we didn't know when. And a couple days before, I just kept going to the mailbox, kept checking. We had fax machines back then, kept checking the fax machine and the answering machine, but there was nothing. And then what I was looking for came. And so it was right at that time that I just got that overwhelming spiritual feeling of knowing. So, does every time we think something or feel something, is it necessarily true or accurate or a warning sign or an opportunity? Probably not. I think it has to be balanced with our common sense wisdom, and we have to know for certain. Some people would call it intuition, but I think that intuition is kind of a sensing, a hypersensitivity. A knowing is more of knowing things that we have no way of knowing. And so, yes, I think warning signs, good or not so good. And warning signs, like I said, can be alerting us, and it really shouldn't be called a warning sign in that situation. A warning sign to alert us of an opportunity ahead and that we need to get prepared for it. And another time I was going to take one job. I applied for this other job, but I applied for this other job, and I've told that story. I think it was called the miracle job or something like that. Anyhow, and that was ended up how I met my husband on that job. It was all connected, but I got called for this other job, and something told me not to take it, that I was going to get this other job. And indeed I did. It was a knowing, just a knowing. So I thought I'd come on here and talk about it. I could go on and on and on with so many stories of my experiences with warning signs, both common sense warning signs, spiritual warning signs, as well as opportunities ahead. And remember, even with opportunities, often we have to be prepared. Just like in the story, how I met my husband, go back and watch that video about how I knew I was going to meet him that day. And I ended up meeting him that night when the plane he was on broke, and ended up where I was for 3 days. And that was how we met. It was just one of those things. And he was from the other side of the country. I was on the other side of the country, and he was traveling to another part of the world that he hadn't even intended to, but it was kind of a last minute type of thing. And yet that morning I woke up and I knew, I just knew. But that was a wonderful opportunity. Okay, so that was a knowing. From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe. Links are pinned at the top of the comment section below, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.